Good evening, I am William Theo, and this is PTV News Now. With times even getting harder as the cost of living ramps up, it is hard to come by rank-and-file or entry-level workers with ironclad honesty and integrity. The latest airport screening fiasco at the country's premier gateway nearly 2 weeks ago has invariably put the country's airport services and their reputation plunging and suffering unwelcome bashing and rapprochement. Caught on camera, a female Office of Transport Security screening officers tried to chew on and ingest 3 $100 bills she purloined from one departing Thai plane passenger who just visited the country. Hence, the Senators Grace Poe and Joel Villanueva earlier today urged the Department of Transportation Office of Transport of Screening to thoroughly vet applicants who they eventually decide to hire. Senator Joel Villanueva pleaded for a probe on the matter, urged for the dismissal of the female security officer munching on the Benjamins, and she said the officer caught in the act of stealing needed to be charged criminally. For her part, Senator Grace Poe wants everyone in the conspiracy identified and aptly charged. She said, by way of the video, she believes Jen, the one caught stealing, did not act alone. This is the 4th incident of its kind this year in which foreign visitors have been robbed of cash or property by OTS or airport security screening officers and or personnel. Meanwhile, out of nowhere, one of the world's eschewed pariahs comes out of his shell in his war-ravaged country to visit an old friend, ally, and co-authoritarian regime leader with the Asia or Asian Games opening this weekend. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his wife arrived earlier today in the afternoon in Hangzhou to attend the 19th Asian Games kickoff. The Syrian strongman has been out of the world stage for the last several years, choosing to stay holed up in his fort in Damascus amid an ongoing civil war. He came to China along with his wife, First Lady Asma al-Assad, on the invitation of President Xi Jinping, whom he will meet Wednesday in Beijing to talk on greater cooperation on an array of mutual interests. For its part, Beijing expressed delight on the Syrian leader's visit, who came here nearly 20 years ago and said this visit will bring bilateral ties to a whole new level. Meanwhile, Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky took front and center in the 78th convening of the United Nations General Assembly. He hit on the United Nations for being ineffective in containing Russia's aggression against his country and sought to have the whole body amend its rules on the Security Council to vote on stripping Russia of its veto power in the powerful UN Council. Veronica Balderas Iglesias hashes over the details in this report.
Despite Russia voicing its strong opposition and in compliance with the organization's rules, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was the first leader to address the United Nations Security Council's meeting Wednesday. He didn't just condemn Moscow's invasion of his country, but also the Council's veto system that, in his view, enables it, and called for reforms.
If it is impossible to stop the war because all efforts are vetoed by the aggressor or those who condone the aggressor, there is a need for a system to prevent aggression through early response to actions violating territorial integrity and sovereignty of states.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov defended his country's military operations and turned the criticism on those supporting Ukraine.
The collective West, led by the United States, arbitrarily assumed the rank of arbiter of the destinies of all mankind and, overwhelmed by a complex of exclusivity, began to increasingly ignore the legacy of the founding fathers.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken decried Russia's belligerence as a clear violation of the UN Charter.
Some argue that continuing to stand with Ukraine and holding Russia accountable distracts us from addressing other priorities, like confronting the climate crisis, expanding economic opportunity, strengthening health systems. That is a false choice. We can and we must do both. We are doing both.
China opted to highlight its mediation efforts.
The core message is facilitating talks for peace.
After underlining his organization's commitment to the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Ukraine, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for restraint.
This war is already causing limitless suffering. Its continuation risks further perilous escalation. There is never an alternative to dialogue, diplomacy, and a just peace.
Guterres added the United Nations will continue working toward a peaceful resolution to the conflict in line with the UN Charter, international law, and the resolutions of the General Assembly. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, the United Nations.
And let's now turn to Eddie Carta on the latest developments in the Cordilleras.
Digbagarabi, Pilipinas, nasarakan ti mapapati a getaway motorcycle ngay naramat dagiti ng paltupaltug kini Attorney Maria Sanyata Liuliwa Alzate, ijay Kasamata Hills, Zone 5, Banged, Abra. Nasarakan na ito iti bantay agarup 5 metro lang manipon iti kalsada. Agarup 4 kilometro mati kaadayuna iti nakapasamakan ti pamaltog. Aging gayta, awan pa lang iti pakabigbigan dagiti sospek. Nupikasta, ibutaktak ni Police Colonel Froilan Lopez nga do dagiti agipat patulod iti impormasyon iti pakabigbigan dagiti sospek iti insidente ngam kasapulan pa iti verifikasyon. Impanamnama ti Abra PPO nga araramidan dan ti amin nakabalanda tapno masulbar dagos ti insidente.
Sinek natin yung mga CCTV doon sa possible exit point. Wala tayong nakitang lumabas. Kaya malakas ang paniniwala natin na nandun lang sa area na yun yung motorcycle. And then, nag-umpisa kami nag-search ng Saturday sa Makabahayan. Una, tinignan yung Makabahayan. So, negative. Sa tingin ko, gusto nilang idaan doon. Kaya lang, nahirapan siguro sila. At na-pressure sila doon sa mga paikot-ikot na pulis. Iniwanan na lang nila doon. Merong daanan siguro ng mga tao na nangunguha ng kahoy na panggatong. So doon nila dinaan, and then binaba nila ang konti, iniwan na doon.
Kapayatan na yung panamnama ni Department of Agriculture Cordillera OIC Regional Executive Director Attorney Jeneline Dawayan ngawan iti shortage ti nateng iti Cordillera. Dahito ikat kalpasan, anak sayan iti napapit dagiti mandalon ken panaggato ti presyo dagiti nateng gapo iti tuloy-tuloy ang panagtudo. Sigon pa iti ensya, no awanan ti makita supply ti nateng ditalaeng nga may baga nga at dati shortage. Kabayatan na damaten dagiti programa ti DACAR para kaliti mandalon nga apektado iti kalamidad. Naimap-outen iti DACAR dagiti naapektaran na mandalon gapo iti tuloy-tuloy ang panagtudo. Orayan dalangan ti may paaya pondo para itiretoy.
Temporarily, because of the effect, pero marami pa naman tayong nakikita, so hindi natin masasabi that there is shortage talaga. Na less siguro yung volume, but not really yung shortage ng supply. May mga bagyo na ganito, kinukuha natin yung mga pangalan, minamap out natin yung mga farmers na affected, and then we request this for funds. So ito po yung mga added funding interventions that the DA is giving, apart from the regular that we have for rice, corn, high value, and urban and peri-urban projects.
Dagiti ng damag, manipon iti PTV Cordillera, siyak ni Eddie Carta, name bagarabi. Kada kayo amin.
And that's it for this evening. This is William Theo reminding you to work hard, dream big, keep fit, be a fuse, and get the news right here. Good evening, everyone.